Powered by Rep Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, Ray. The cool new flavors of spring and summer have arrived at Tim's with this year's lineup of delicious and, of course, refreshing cold beverages, including the brand new lineup of Tim Hortons Frozen Quenchers flavors. So listen to this lineup, because we all like a tasty beverage, especially when it's hot in summer. Orange tangerine, blackberry yuzu, peach, strawberry watermelon, and the new pineapple dragon fruit, which is intriguing. I like pineapple in my drinks. I don't know what dragon fruit really is, but I'm intrigued enough. I'm going to try it. Are you a dragon fruit fan?
I cannot say I know what dragon fruit is, but I will try, because when it gets hot, I like a little tang and zip into the stuff. So I'm going to give it a go. I'll give it a go.
Okay,
sure.
now
we're not quite warm enough in Vancouver yet, but
nor in the GTA. It's not quite there, but there's another option, right? And we had this debate over dessert at the end of the last Ray and Dregs podcast. All right, so this fits kind of into that category, but in a beverage way. All right, so backed by popular demand, the Oreo double stuff iced cap.
Yeah.
So you get you get both, right? Maybe you're going to the golf course. Maybe you're going to the golf course. You've had a hearty breakfast, right? But it's hot out. It's hot out, and you need that little jolt of caffeine. So you get the Oreo double stuff ice cap, and
that's where I'm lean. That's my lean right there. I can feel that right there.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that at Tim Hortons. Man, Ray, the National Hockey League lost another great one on Wednesday. Longtime NHL general manager, executive Ray Shero passed away. Mike Grusin and Rob Rossi from The Athletic wrote a couple of wonderful tributes. So we're not going to try and do it justice here, because they talked to so many people that Ray Shero influenced during decades of work in the National Hockey League. It's just the volume alone speaks to the quality of the human being. And you and I both had the privilege of knowing Ray Shero and the type of human being that he was.
First of all, just a terrible few days. First with Greg Millen's passing, and now with Ray. And for anybody that came into contact with Ray, there's a couple of things you noticed right away. It was like he was super engaging, really friendly, loved to laugh, loved a great story, and everybody was in the conversation. Like, he was just such an amazing person to be around. And man, did he had great stories, and he could tell great stories. Yeah. And those always aren't the same. And he always, wherever I would run into him, always asking about my family, always checking on the extended, the Granato family, like always asking, always checking. And it was a shock to many people that Ray had passed. Not many people knew that, this was where he was health-wise, and just condolences to his family, but just which goes without saying, but just an amazing person.
Well, and it would be a tough day for many across the hockey world, especially the Pittsburgh Penguins, where Ray Shero, his fingerprints are all over the success stories historically in Pittsburgh, and of course, great relationship with the captain, Sidney Crosby. So the segue in this is a difficult one, because, just to lighten the mood here a little bit, we see Sidney with Pat McAfee and I guess Evgeny Malkin. Who else was up on stage at PPG Paints?
Letang was there. Malkin, Crosby. They were. There was this contest. Basically, McAfee at the wrestling event in Pittsburgh. They have a chance to throw a football. It looked like about 30 yards into this target. And Roethlisberger was there, Ben Roethlisberger, the old Steelers quarterback, and Paul Skeens, who, if you're not a baseball fan, he's the most dominant pitching prospect. Well, he's not a prospect, star to come into Major League Baseball. So they were up on stage. And each time somebody hit one of the targets, $1 million went into a pot for a selected fan.
Yeah.
And the other guys miss. And of course, Sid gets up there, says, I haven't thrown a ball in a long time. And he's standing right underneath the Stanley Cup banners, and he makes it. So the $1 million goes to the fan. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And of course,
he was hilarious. McAfee didn't know. Like, I mean, Pat does an excellent job. I mean, if you're familiar with the show, which you are, of course, we all are here, but he's so well-rounded and so comfortable in that spotlight. He had such a good time with Crosby just whistling that, but very succinctly said, well, of course he did. Well, it's Sidney Crosby. What else is he going to do?
Right. He wasn't going to miss, was he? No chance.
No, he wasn't going to miss.
It was fun. It was good. It was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. I want you to think about this as we go into the Tim Hortons headlines, because there's lots of different storylines that we can peruse and will here. So round one of the Masters happening at Augusta National. Did you know that there are 30 varieties of azaleas? I didn't want you to think about that, but it's a fun fact. 30 varieties of azaleas.
I've put zero thought into that, but it looks really nice.
Okay. At the end of the episode, as we're wrapping up, I want you to give a bold prediction as to who you think is going to win the 2025 Masters. All right?
Okay.
So give that.
I'm going to say this, though. Yesterday is always a fun thing to watch. When the kids the kids are rolling around the greens and running around in their little white overalls and stuff. I love that. It's really fun to watch.
John Rahm's little guy was hilarious because didn't want anything to do with playing the game at all. Like on the green, he's kicking the ball and having a field day out there.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It was awesome to watch those little kids having some fun with their dads.
Yeah, we've got Jason Strudwick, who, former player, of course, an analyst on the Got Your Back podcast, host of Struddy's
holding that show together.
Yeah, kind of is. Host of Struddy's World. So he's going to join us. We're going to talk a lot about the Edmonton Oilers, and there's plenty to talk about. So why don't we start with that, and then we'll revisit with Struddy later. And that, of course, is the return of Connor McDavid. So he misses 8 games with a lower body injury. Seemed to be a last-minute ad for the Oilers, taking on the Blues. Oil captain puts up 3 assists, including a pretty sweet play out of the penalty box on the game winner. Typical of Connor. Drives wide and then sifts it out front to Connor Brown, who doesn't miss. Brown, by the way, had a pretty nice game. But what a boost. Obviously, Edmonton still has a slew of injury issues. Again, we'll talk with Struddy about that. But what a boost to get McDavid back in that fashion and watch him do what I guess we're used to seeing him do on a night in and night out basis.
Draisaitl and McDavid changed. Like, this is so simplistic, but they changed the outlook of what you could possibly expect from the Oilers. If you put good players in their place, you don't even look at that team the same way. I mean, one of the reasons they are special is because of what these guys can do that other people can't. When McDavid gets a puck and he starts flying down the right wing, and I've been lucky enough to see it from a foot away when he goes by you, you can almost feel the anxiety on the D-man that I'm supposed to keep a good gap, but I can't get too tight because then he's just going to go around me. Mm-hmm. And you watch him drive defensemen back. It's an amazing thing to see, and that's what he did on what turned out to be the winning goal. Right, he just drove everybody back behind the net almost, and Brown's right on the doorstep to put it in. And I hope there's a multitude of guys across the league that are iffy for the playoffs. I hope they can get to the starting line, and so we get to see a healthy go into whatever the playoffs are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, the game of McDavid, how the Oilers prevailed, all of that, just, again, one of so many interesting twists and turns, from a regular season night where, of course, the intensity is higher because you still have playoff races. I mean, it looks like things are settled in both conferences, but there's a bit of jockeying that's possible. A little bit. Toronto was no good, Ray, on Tuesday night. We did that game. They're in Sunrise, Florida. I don't know what it is, aside from the obvious that Florida's a defending Stanley Cup champion, that Toronto just doesn't, like, there were stretches of that game on Tuesday that Florida dominated, just flat out dominated. Toronto didn't have an answer. And then they go into Tampa Bay on Wednesday, and that was high octane hockey. That was high octane. I mean, Matthews was going, Marner was going, Matthew Knies with the hat trick, including another beauty in overtime from Matthews and Morgan Riley. That's 29th goal of the year for 22-year-old Matthew Knies, right? I mean, it does feel like, so I don't know if the question is, how do you explain that? How can you be so off night before in a back-to-back scenario against the defending Stanley Cup champions and then just dial it in and finish and get an important 2 points a night after?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, the way Tampa started, it was like they were 20 minutes late to the game. Like they showed up at the game at 7. Yeah, they showed up at 7:30. The game started at 7, and boom, boom, it's 2-0. And the Florida thing's interesting. It's not. It's like they can't quite get past the line with Florida. Like they get up to the line and they can't push their way past it. It's not intimidation, like they're scared of the Panthers, but it's like they can't get there. Yeah. And you got to remember that Florida team they lost to was missing about 4 guys, 4 significant players. So the jockeying in this division for first place is really critical, because nobody wants to be in that second and third, the 2-3 series. Nobody wants to be in that. So they had to rebound. Like, you had, I don't know why. Because it's not like Tampa's an easy team to play against, but man, Tampa can scoot. They can go. And I wonder if that's a better matchup
maybe
for them. Tampa was playing without Gensel too. Which, was a pretty, without saying much, is a pretty significant loss for them. But man, Matthew Knies, whatever his back pocket looks like, he better get a bigger one, because my God, that guy's going to make some dough. I mean, what if you're looking for what a NHL power forward should look like in 2025? You're carving out Matthew Knies. He can skate. He's big. He's got great hands. I love Berube's quote. First of all, I don't get super excited about, I don't jump out of my chair very often. The play he made in overtime when he went back between his legs for the pass. And I love Berube's thing. He goes, "That's not a play I'd recommend." If Chief would have tried that, he would have ended up separating his shoulder when he stepped on the puck and crashed into the boards. It was an amazing play. Amazing play. What a game for him. He's a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And I mean, this isn't a bridge deal. This is a big one coming up for them. You got to, you're going to pay him now or later, but now you can see it doesn't. We've all focused on Marner all year. Damn, the thing is complicated, isn't it? When you get all of a sudden a player, it's 22 years old, like this. You still got to make all the money fit, and it'll be a challenge. But man, he's a no-brainer. He is a terrific young player.
Yeah, literally a wild night in Minnesota. No pun intended here.
What was going on there?
Oh my gosh!
What was going on there?
And you can't belittle the goaltending. I mean, 15 goals scored, but you can't, because that'll be a point I want to touch on in a moment. And that was, it's very likely Marc-Andre Fleury's last start, regular season, home ice start, right? In Minnie, and his family was there, and it was emotional, and his daughters are crying in the crowd. And, I'm looking, I'm like, whew. But you had Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks with his first NHL hat trick. So Kaprizov comes back after missing 28 games. He scores 2, including the overtime winner. 8-7 final. Eriksson Ek scored 4 in his return after missing 21 games. I mean, every fan in that building got more than enough in terms of entertainment value for the ticket. That was something else all around.
Man, the Wild have been saying if we can just get these guys back, they hung in there pretty well because for a quarter of the season, more than a quarter of the season, they didn't have 2 of their very best players, and they hung around that wild card spot. And I know one night doesn't make everything go away, but man, they're just a completely different team with those 2 guys in the lineup. Eriksson Ek is a load to play against. So they're going to get in as the 7th or 8th seed. I think they're going to be 7th.
Yeah.
And the first wild card. That's just where I feel they'll settle. That's not an easy out. Like that's Vegas in the first round. And so now you're going to have Eriksson Ek's going to play against Eichel. You start looking at a couple of matchups and you go, ooh, geez, that's a little different. Kaprizov juices their offense all over the place. And, it's like, I think Vegas is really good and I'll pick them to win the series, but that changes their series. As for Fleury, man, what a credit to the game he's been for 20 years. Nobody will remember his last home start. Who cares? He's had a Hall of Fame career, and how fortunate he is, to be able to be around long enough that his kids remember watching him play and having the memories of watching their dad play when they're out on the ice before the game. Like, that's just so great. It was so great. It was, he deserves all the accolades that are coming to him.
Ray, I know we're going to talk a little bit about Colorado. Gabe Landeskog reportedly going to the American Hockey League on a conditioning stint. So there's another piece. We'll talk to Struddy about that coming up shortly here on the podcast. But you just mentioned Vegas, right? And we started the headline segment talking about Connor McDavid's return and the Oilers and the injury issues that they've gone through. We'll talk more about that as well. But what about Vegas? You can't overlook the pieces that they don't have available with the end of the regular season creeping close.
So that in the game on Tuesday in Denver, both Pietrangelo and Hague didn't play. They were sick, so they're going to be okay, right? Like however long that's going to take. But up front, Tomas Hertl missed his 8th straight game, and Jack Eichel didn't play. And so you've taken out their, basically 2 of their 3 best forwards probably. And you're, I mean, the report was we're hopeful they'll be back to play a game before the playoffs. I don't know exactly what that meant, but their team without them is clearly not the Vegas Golden Knights. And so they've got all of a sudden some nervousness. They're going to have the number 1 seed in the division, but they're going home. They can settle in a little bit and hopefully get these guys back. It was really made you take a step back with the number of guys that were out there was 9 guys out that are going to be playing or need to be playing for those teams to be at their best.
Yeah. It's a real thing though, right? In the last 4 or 5 games of the regular season, because everybody's got something. So you are juggling your lineup and you're trying to get guys appropriate rest, but there has to be in every hockey operations group of those playoff teams that deep-rooted fear. Let's just get through this healthy. Let's just get through these games
you're in,
healthy.
right? You're in. So it's like they're just nobody run into anybody, nobody block a shot. You start to worry about a guy blocking a shot and breaking a hand or breaking a foot, like something that they do just instinctually, and all of a sudden you don't have them. I mean, it's a tough time of year. I do want to mention one thing because I know we've talked. It's all about the playoffs and really the only thing that matters. But one of my favorite players to watch in the league without question, is David Pastrnak. I just love the way he plays. I love his style. I love his ability. So in the history of the game, Jaromir Jagr has the record of he was involved either a goal or assist on 15 straight Pittsburgh Penguin goals. 15 straight. That's ridiculous.
It's a big number.
Pasternak's at 13. 13 straight Bruins goals. David Pastrnak has either had a goal or an assist.
Yeah.
And when Morgan Geekie signs his restricted free agent contract, whatever that's going to be, he better send a bottle of wine to Pastrnak, because he says all the time that sometimes he catches you not ready and the puck's just on your stick. And so he's at 13 games. So he's 13 goals in a row. So he's only 2 behind Jagr's record, which is just, to me, it's like peewee hockey that you could be able to do that.
Well, one great bright spot for the Boston Bruins, who, you know, the season is going to end in disappointment, and then the offseason starts with all kinds of possibilities, speculation of change, and all of that. All right, those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons. All right, great to be joined on the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast by a friend of the podcast, Jason Strudwick, who's host of the new Struddy's World, Ray. Struddy's World. And I don't know if you've had the privilege, but I have now at least 3 times of being one of Struddy's buddies on the podcast.
Oh,
and
no, I have not. I haven't made the grade.
You haven't made the cut. Okay, that's fine. Also an analyst and got your back. And about to launch like a chain of car washes. Is that what's going on? You don't have enough going on in your world. You're a media mogul and everything else. Just throw it on the pile.
Well, my wife loves me when I'm not home, right? So that's when our relationship's at our best.
I don't think you're the only one. I think we all got a little of that. Cammy keeps asking, when's the next trip?
Yes. All right. Well, I mean, we're going into the final week now of the NHL regular season, and Ray and I talked about some of the top stories in the Tim Hortons headlines, Struddy, but bigger picture. I mean, I guess it can be the Edmonton Oilers if you choose. I mean, that's the team that you primarily focus on. But what is the one thing that interests you most as we close out the regular season here?
Well, I think we saw a bit of it last night with the Wild getting somewhat healthy. You know, you take any team, you lose your, 2 of your best players, at least forwards. I guess Bolte would still be one, but, Eriksson Ek and, of course, Dollar Bill Kirill are, 2 of their best forwards. Same thing in Edmonton. We lose Connor and Leon. You know what? Can they get back? Can they find their form again? And can they get their team back in the groove that they had been in for the Wild, for sure, for, good stretches of the season until they ran into injuries?
It's funny you bring that up. I was in Denver the other night, and Colorado's potentially going to have 4 forwards in the lineup on the first game of the playoffs that weren't playing on Tuesday. And so it makes I don't know what you think, it makes like trying to predict all this stuff like even more of a wild card. Like, I mean, McDavid's not going to need any time. He didn't look terrible last night at all, did he? Like,
no.
How much can the Oilers expect from some of the guys that are coming back? Like, what can they get from Evander Kane? Like, does anybody have any idea?
Well, no, and then imagine if you're Colorado trying to figure out Gabe Landeskog.
Right.
What I mean, it's a great story, and I'm so happy for him. You follow his video and some of the work they're doing behind the scenes, and I want so badly for it to work for him, but it's 3 years he hasn't played a hockey game.
Crazy.
Now you're going to play some games in HL, which is a great step, and I imagine mentally for him that's massive. So 3 years, what do you expect? I think if you're an Av, you're like, I just hope he plays. I just hope he can play, and then we'll see where the floor is, and we'll work from there. With Evander Kane, it's a year. That's a long time. And for a long stretch of that, he wasn't able to work out or skate or do anything except just be a dad, which is an awesome job. But that doesn't really help too much a team in the playoffs. So I think for Evander Kane to get in here, by all reports, he's been flying around the ice and he's feeling good. But the timing, the physicality, just the intensity of a game, pretty hard to jump into a playoff game as your first game of the year. And then the guy who to me is really important for the Oilers because they traded for him, gave up quite a bit, Trent Frederick. It sounds like he has a high ankle sprain, comes back, played a kind of a Strudwick type shift, 6-7 seconds of quality hockey, then got off the ice. And, But in those 6 seconds, it was really good quality. That's for sure. And I think they need this guy so badly to be what he can be. They don't need him to come in and score 50 goals. They need him to come, bring energy, be physical, and kind of get to other teams' D-man. You look at, if they play the Kings, they've got some good D-men. I'm guessing Vegas might be their second round opponent. Those D are huge, and it's hard to get to the net. You need guys that can knock them down, get in their way, slow them down, and just force their way to the middle of the ice.
Well, one thing on Frederick, I mean, when he was out there, when he shot it off the glass, I mean, it brought a tear to every Strudwick fan around the league. I mean, it was freaking amazing.
He was looking for a tip.
Yeah, of course he was. The one thing about what's so interesting for him is he's fast. Like like Frederick he can get going pretty good. And I thought the Oilers lost a lot of that over the summer and into the season. And he's a pretty good player. I watch him a lot. I've had him a lot in Boston over the last couple of years. And it's funny, you kind of forget that he's even there, or at least I have. I kind of forgot he's there because he hasn't played. So it'll be interesting to see where they're at. What's the confidence in Edmonton of what the team is, what they could be? It's a place with lots of angst all the time because the bar is now so high.
Well, and the expectations are to get back to the Stanley Cup final. And this year it's been okay. I'd frame the season as okay. There's been a few challenges. They did lose some big fast bodies. Dylan Holloway, I think we all see what he's doing in St. Louis. He's been more than okay. He's been amazing. They traded away Ryan McLeod, who's fast, not doesn't really play big or physical, but big, fast guy. And then Warren Foegele, who's now in LA, the team they're probably going to play in the first round. It looks like they'll play in the first round. Big, fast. And what I liked about Foegele is that he takes the puck to the net. And, as a defender, I always felt that if you wanted to go behind the back of the net, no problem. That's great players like Gretzky have gone there. Ray Ferraro would often just skate behind the net and not even try.
I never had the puck though. I was just
not attack the blue paint. Just shoot from distance, But when you're defending now, all of a sudden, if players are attacking you, it puts you under pressure. And I think that, the guys like Foegele, guys like Holloway, they did that. So I think that's why a Kane or a Frederick are really important to get this team a different look on the way they attack. Skinner, the skater, he's a little bit more east-west and a lot of 10s and 2s and not always just using his speed straight up and down. That makes it pretty tough to say that he's going to attack the net as a defender. Like, okay, well, you can kind of do your 10 and 2s on the outside. I'm going to stay on the inside. And it doesn't help him get any slot shots.
Yeah, but expand on the secondary scoring for the Edmonton Oilers here, Struddy, for just a minute. McDavid comes back into the mix and shocks no one with 3 points after missing 8 games. But then you see
Rusty.
Yeah, Rusty. You see Victor Arvidsson chip in, and nice night for Connor Brown. I mean, those are the pieces at this time of the year as you're bracing for another matchup, likely, as you said, with the LA Kings, that can't always be about the top 6 guys. Like, players like that have to find a way.
They do. And so in a really weird way, the injuries to Draisaitl and McDavid might have been a big cure or help to those secondary scorers, because now son Henrique, who's never on the power play, is looking at the power play time. Arvidsson, who wasn't even allowed to watch the power play when it was fully loaded, now he's on the power play. Darnell Nurse gets on the power play last night because there's no Nugent Hopkins. So it changes, and all of a sudden those guys start feeling it. You go from maybe 12 or 14 or 15 minutes to maybe 15, 16 or 17, and that includes power play time. And they have always been skilled. Henrique has always played on the power play since he was 5 years old. He comes here, you're not taking over Connor McDavid's spot or Leon Draisaitl. So now you're feeling it. So you've seen these guys like Henrique, Brown, Paul Colson, Potts won last night. All these, Nugent Hopkins had a nice run there for a while, though he's out now. So that second layer of scoring is feeling it. So now you throw back in Connor and Leon. I'm not sure where Kane and Frederick are when they come back in the lineup, but now everyone's like, hey, I've been playing quite a bit lately. I'm feeling good about my game. Then we put this injection of elite talent at the top, and it might just work out okay. Now, it might also go the other way, but I'm going to trust this team that's been through a lot of playoff rounds the last number of years to know what it feels like to be ready.
When you get talking about the Oilers, the forwards obviously are interesting because they're so high level and we see the greatness of them. You got to win, you got to keep the puck out of your net. The goaltending swallows up a lot of error in Edmonton all the time. Is it, if we remember, is it at the same place as last year? Is it a little bit more uneasy? Because last year, the last game they played, you remember that debacle in Denver, they lost 7-0 and they went to the Stanley Cup final. Like, does it even really matter? Or well, where are you at?
I would say that I'm a little bit concerned with the stability of Stuart Skinner and his game right now. It's been inconsistent. There were some good stretches before Christmas, and then since Christmas, it's been inconsistent. They added a quality defenseman in Wallman, so they have 5 strong D-men. Then they have 2 guys who are 6,
Struddy,
7.
Have you liked him since he's been there?
I think that I think that when he first arrived, he was quite physical. He blocks a lot of shots, but he's skilled. He's the hardest passer on the Oilers. Like, he rips passes when he it's incredible how hard he passes. He has a big shot. I like it when he's a little bit more direct in his own zone, stops and starts, and that sounds like I'm talking about a 10-year-old, but that's the game doesn't change no matter how old you are, right? You still got to go in straight lines. So I have like that ad. And what I love about it is that they now have 5D who are going to play a ton in the playoffs, and they'll have a 6 who's going to play 10 minutes. And those 5 guys are going to play with everyone.
Struddy, hold on. You owe Ray Ferraro an apology, because on Struddy's World on Wednesday, you chirped him about talking about, all we talk about is centers and forwards, and and goalies, and we never talk about the defense. And Ray just brought it back from goaltending up to defense.
Because I want the puck on my stick, and half the time these guys stick it up your ass. And you can't get. Now what are you going to do with it? When you get a breakout pass from Struddy that hits you right in the pants, it makes you feel so good.
Well, I was under pressure with 2 guys, and I just got it up to you. You're lucky I passed you on the far blue line.
Hey, Struddy, how about the arguments that would start between the D would yell, "Get freaking open up there," and you'd be like, "Well, you dummies don't pass it to me anyway. You just shoot it off the boards." And this is in the game, right? It's like
all the time, get back. Someone would yell at D-men to yell to get back from down the bench, and the forwards would swear back at you. Come on, the coach would yell, calm down. You're like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But you still got to get back.
Yep. And you still got it just one time.
Yeah.
Click on the clicking out. So yeah, okay. So you like the D, you're worried about Skinner a smidge, which I think's the general view. 4 years in a row, the same team, the same series. What, if anything, changes?
Oof.
So I think being a team 3 times is tough in a row, and now 4 times in a row. The anger that the Kings should feel for the Oilers would be over the moon. There's going to be a lot of anger coming out of there. And a couple things I think have changed for this year. Drew Doughty, I'm hopefully is going to be a part of this. But the big thing for me is Byfield. I love Quinton Byfield. I can't. Anytime the Kings are on, I watch him. I see how he's playing. I think his game's upticked since Christmas. He's big. He's fast. He gets to the net. I mean, that goal he scored the other day was pretty incredible.
Unreal.
So now you have Kopitar, Deneau, but more importantly, a way improved and I think confident right now Byfield. So can he match up against Leon or Connor? And if not beat him, at least saw it off. And that makes a big difference because he hasn't been that player at that level for the last, he's young. He's a young guy. So I think for me, he's a big deal. Warren Fogle getting to the net and using that big body. Mm-hmm. So, I don't feel as confident. I mean, last year they did beat him pretty quickly. But this Kings team will be angry, and they've had a couple upgrades that I think are going to be a surprise to Oilers. I don't think the Oilers are as fast as they were last year, which is a challenge.
So it goes 6 or 7, and you're giving the edge to the Oilers.
Well, I'll still give it to the Oilers with the top end talent. But again, there's so many wild cards. So I'm going to assume everyone's healthy, including Frederick and Kane. Now, if Kane comes back and and I'm not expecting a ton from him, but if he can't play, that's a challenge because that's a big body. They can at least hit and get to the net. And then if Frederick is ineffective, That's another big body that you're maybe expecting. Maybe he was supposed to play with Leon. I don't know. Or maybe he's beside Connor and Hyman. I'm not sure. Or maybe starts on the third line, but we'll never know now till probably the first game. And so that worries me a little bit. So those two guys are massive wild cards.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if LA doesn't get out of this first round this year, I mean, like, where do you go next, right? Like they've made significant swings and changes, and you keep running into the same guys. And this whole, like, I know everybody thinks the Stanley Cup's coming out of the West this year. It feels like that, except these teams are going to kill each other in the first two rounds. And then you get to the two standing guys to the conference final, and the East is a much different path, I think.
Yeah,
way different. And I didn't even mention Kemper, the netminder, and talk about a crazy trade. I remember that trade happened. I'm like, that's just me trading my garbage for your garbage, right?
Yeah,
and then it's worked out for both teams, and that sounds disrespectful to the players, but that's what we're all thinking when that trade happened, and he's done really well. And it's funny you talk about the East. Like the team I think about there are the Canes. You know, like, I don't know that New Jersey is that hard a team to get by. And then you're feeling pretty good heading to the second round. And, you know, let's say you play Washington, and they're a good team, but if you can get by them, that's not a hard path. What if you're Winnipeg or you're Dallas or Colorado? Some of those teams you got the Wild. I mean, that's a tough division to get out of. And then if you get by that, you got to play the Kings, the Oilers, or the Vegas. I'll take the Kings path any day.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just seems to look like a different. The road is clearly different in the East for sure.
It does. All right, Struddy, we'll let you go, buddy. And I mean, there's so many captivating series, and we'll forecast that. But we'll try and get you back during the first round or right after the first round, depending on how things go for the Oil. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be with two legends. You know, older legends of this media business. Thank you.
Okay,
Struddy, really, your sincerity touches me. Go influence the next generation of shoot it around the board defensemen, would you?
They're coming. There's going to be so many first rounders out of this group I'm working with. D-man, it's crazy.
Turn, slash, and chip it off the glass. I love
it. Thanks, Struddy.
See you later.
Thanks, Struddy.
All right, Ray. Well, there's Struddy joining us here in this episode of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast.
He's entertaining, man.
What a character he is, man. Yeah. What a character. And busy dude, as we acknowledged, right? He hosts his own show now, Struddy's World. Got Your Back podcast. He's on there all the time. And by the way, he took 15 minutes out of his morning to join us on our podcast before racing off to do a development skate or coach a team or do whatever it is this man does. He
still loves to apparently be on the ice because he's running his own stuff. And, he loves working with defensemen. He has a defenseman camp in the summer. And he's just such a fun, sharp, quick-witted guy. Like he's fun to talk to. And whatever little, jab you could give him, there's one coming back. It never really ends, which is really awesome. I'm thoroughly entertained. He was great today too. Thanks, Struddy.
Yep. Thank you, Struddy. So as we wrap up this episode, tease the Masters. Obviously, everybody knows the Masters is underway as we record here on Thursday. Do you want to give me a top three if you like? They don't have to finish top three, but your top three choices, and then who you think is going to win or who you hope is going to win.
Well, I'm going to say, because it seems like it's about time, that I think McElroy's going to win.
Okay.
It would be impossible to pick a top three and not have Scotty Scheffler in there somewhere. Like, why?
Fair. Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be? You know? And I think Cam Smith is going to have a really good tournament.
Ooh,
I think he's a terrific player. And those will be my three. I do hope somehow Freddie Couples makes the cut. He's trying to be the oldest guy to make the cut. He's 65. And
silky swing.
Still.
Still.
And I hope somehow he can scratch it together to play on the weekend.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, you had two of my three. I went Scheffler and Rory as 1-2. And then I'm a bit undecided. Then it gets into the field a little bit, right? I wonder about Victor Hovland. Is he ready yet? I don't think he is.
He'd be an easy guy to cheer for.
Yeah.
He's such a,
Bryson DeChambeau. I don't know what camp you were in a couple of years ago. I was at a camp that couldn't stand this guy. Like I could appreciate the talent, but just the cockiness and the arrogance and everything about him, I couldn't grab hold of. But to me, he has completely changed his whole dynamic. I mean, his social media stuff is terrific, and he's so likable now that I'd be okay if DeChambeau won. I'd be okay with it. So I don't think he's going to, but I'd be okay.
Whoever worked with him, whatever PR firm worked with him, and then he had to embrace it because he's completely changed. I think the perception of him. I do want to give a shout out and a hope for Nick Taylor.
Yes, of course.
Really good guy. Have had the opportunity to meet him and play with him a couple of times, and so I hope it goes well for him. By the way, if you've ever had the luck to play with a pro, we don't play the same game. It's not the same game.
Everything about it, right? Starting with the sound of the ball off the club. It just sounds
everything. And they're playing for fun when they're playing with donkeys like us. And it's like I guess they're concentrating sort of, but we played one time and he shot 64, and we were with Dan Murphy and from Sportsnet, and we're on the 15th tee, and he kind of walks over. He goes, Nick's 7 under, eh? I go, he didn't even look like he was trying.
Jesus.
So I mean, this is just so amazing to watch. I love this tournament, and as soon as I shut up, I'm going to go and turn it on.
I once played 9 holes with John Daly at Angus Glen in Toronto.
How'd that look?
Well, I can't remember. I think it was the 9th hole. It's over a gorge. And he said, you can choose any of the clubs that you want me to hit, but we're going to long drive for beers here. Well, so stupidly, I go, all right, well, you hit your sand wedge and I'll hit my driver. He goes, okay.
Right.
What
did he blade it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I hit a decent drive. Like I was out there, he just flips this thing on its side, and he's got like maybe a half inch, of space, and just hits this like zinger, like just straight out there. I think it flew my ball at that point. So, and we literally, I'll wrap it up, but we get into the clubhouse, and he was into the long neck Coors bottles. Remember the long necks?
Oh yeah.
And he goes, I'll have 2 long necks. And he goes, just keep them coming. I'll tell you when, and it's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while.
That's a great time. He was hilarious. All right, buddy, what's your weekend looking like?
Off to Columbus tomorrow, Washington and Columbus. We thought maybe that was going to be the game.
Yeah.
And however, no, but that's our game Saturday afternoon. And then I've just got, I've got a light weekend. So back home Saturday night, and enjoy home for the week before the playoffs.
Yeah, I've got a weekend in the theater room downstairs here. We've got this enormous projection. It's not a TV. It's like a screen, and the projector is above, like one of those things. That's what I'm doing. I got to work a little bit today, a little bit on Friday, half a day, my usual half a day stuff.
You really grind it out there. Yeah.
Friday afternoon, Saturday, and don't bug me on Sunday because I'll be glued to the couch.
Yes.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
You too, Dregs. Enjoy the Masters, everybody. And thanks for listening. Struddy, thanks. Yeah. And we'll talk to you next week.
You bet. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs, our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, and thank you to Akon. Until next time, enjoy the Masters. Stay safe, everybody.